The desert sun of Velcaron. Three hung low like a watching god, casting long amber shadows across the council plaza. There was no breeze, only dust, fine as bone ash, drifting between the marble columns that lined the square like sentries. Above them, banners of 100 star systems fluttered from towering poles, though none flew for Earth. A woman stood near the edge of a raised platform, her face pale, sweat clinging to her brow. Her dress was simple, homespun, patched at the sleeves. The swell of her belly beneath it was unmistakable. 8 months, maybe 9. Her hands rested on it, gently, not protectively. That instinct had been exhausted long ago. Beside her stood a boy of no more than 7. Brown hair curled over his ears, hands clenched into trembling fists at his sides. He didn't look up at the towering figures before him. He kept his eyes on his mother's fingers, watching how they moved like drifting reeds in still water. She wasn't speaking, not yet. Not while the court was still in session. And they were all watching. The Galactic Council Plaza was full, elites from 77 species, lounging in terraces carved of starglass and obsidian. Hover feathers rippled as diplomats whispered translations. Some squinted at the human woman with open curiosity. Others turned away in polite disdain. At the center stood General Zarduin, supreme enforcer of the Empire's core sector. 7 feet tall, plated in black and gold armor that shimmered with power signatures. His insectoid eyes blinked in opposite directions as he addressed the crowd in his graveled, flanged voice. And thus, the human petition for aid is dismissed, he concluded. On the grounds of irrelevance, under Clause 12 Beta. Earth, as always, seeks sympathy. But sympathy is not currency here. A ripple of laughter passed through the audience, soft and indulgent. The woman didn't laugh. She stepped forward. I came for food rations, not sympathy, she said quietly. My name is Mara Wren, widow of Corporal Thomas Wren. ID code 6, a 1-7A Earth Coalition. He died under your banner. You promised care for the families of fallen auxiliaries. General Zarduin turned his head slowly. His mandibles clicked once. That was a symbolic alliance. Nothing contractual. Your husband died serving our empire, bravely, I'll grant. But you are not owed reward for his death. You are owed silence, dignity, obedience. Her hands tightened over her belly. He died believing in peace. Then he died naive. The boy beside her took a small step closer, eyes wide and shining. Mara's voice was steady, but quiet now. Please. We have nothing. He wore your crest. We just need enough to survive the next month. You already have something, Zarduin sneered, gesturing to her belly. Breed more. That's what your species does best, doesn't it? There was a flicker of motion, a breath of silence, and then the sound, a thud, sharp and deep, like a dropped war drum. General Zarduin's armored foot had driven into her ribs with sudden, unannounced fury. She was lifted off her feet and landed hard on her side, arms curling instinctively over her stomach. Dust flew. The boy screamed. Gasps rippled across the plaza. Even the seasoned ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. But no one moved. The boy dropped beside her. His voice was shaking. Mama. Mom, are you? Her face contorted in pain, but she nodded. Just once. Zarduin loomed above them both. Let this be a lesson in hierarchy. Your dead husband was a tool. You are a burden. And that child is a problem waiting to happen. I'm 7, the boy said quietly. Zarduin looked down. Then you'll remember this. And behind them, on the lowest step of the amphitheater, a single man closed the cap on his tea thermos and exhaled softly. He wore gray. No medals, no armor. Just a well-pressed suit and a silver pin in the shape of Earth. His shoes were dusty. His hair was salt and pepper and cut with understated care. There was no fear in his eyes, only patience. He stepped forward, 1 foot, then the other. The silence was absolute. He did not help Mara up. He did not touch the child. He simply knelt beside them, looked at the woman's eyes, burning with pain, but not broken, and nodded once. Madam Wren, he said, his voice smooth as aged bourbon. Your request has been noted. Please consider your testimony complete. She looked at him in confusion, even as blood trickled at the corner of her lip. Who? Elias Monroe, diplomatic attaché, Earth delegation. I'll take it from here. Zarduin laughed, clapping his claws together mockingly. Earth sends a butler to argue law. No argument, Elias said gently, standing up. We won't be filing further complaints. Oh, learning your place. Elias adjusted his sleeves. We have always known our place, General. That's what makes us dangerous. The air shifted. A few of the council members, sensitive to human cadence, went still. They understood tone. The old tone. The one their ancestors had warned about. But it was too late. Elias turned to the assembly, bowing with measured grace. Ladies and gentle beings, Earth withdraws its petition. You may proceed with business as usual. Please, do enjoy the remainder of your summit. He tapped the button on his datapad. Somewhere above the stratosphere, a relay flashed green. Mara struggled to sit up. The boy clung to her. Why didn't you stop him?" she whispered. Elias looked down at her with something close to sorrow. "Because you're not a victim," he said quietly. "You're a trigger." Then he turned and walked away. An hour later, across the outer ring, the first Empire outpost blinked out of existence. No weapons detected. No bodies recovered. Only a crater miles wide. And in its center, scorched into glass, she was 8 months pregnant. General Zarduin sat in his war chamber that night, staring at the feed. The message was being transmitted on every known frequency, in every dialect, including dialects Earth should never have known. He played it again. 8 months pregnant. The voice was soft, human, male, calm. But behind it, something ancient stirred. Not hatred, not rage, resolve. A subordinate entered. "Sir, 12 more facilities are non-responsive. Sensor feeds are scrambled. Multiple planets reporting psychological interference, visions, hallucinations. There's a pattern, but we can't." "Earth," Zarduin muttered. The subordinate hesitated. "Sir." He turned, his mandibles twitching. "Tell the council," he said. "Tell them we've awakened something we do not understand." Outside, the stars burned a little colder, and the widow's son, now asleep beside his mother on a medical cot aboard the embassy ship, whispered a word in his sleep. A word his father had taught him once, during their only fishing trip. Retribution. The Galactic Council Chamber had seen countless empires rise, fall, and pretend not to notice one another. Built into the orbiting heart of Citadel Eularis, its dome stretched like the underside of a glass ocean, stars visible through shimmering panels of engineered crystal. The central dais, plated in silver, shaped like a compass, was where disputes were aired, punishments delivered, and alliances arranged over extravagant courtesy. Today, it smelled faintly of ozone and arrogance. Representatives from 91 worlds were present. 90 were smiling. Elias Monroe stood alone on the platform, hands behind his back, face unreadable. No flags flanked him. No guards. No entourage. Just the steady posture of a man who'd been underestimated 100 times before and had learned to smile through it. Chancellor Garuv, the bulbous, glistening slug diplomat of the High Council, regarded him with a gelatinous squint. "We received your formal withdrawal from the petition," Garuv said, each word translated into elegant, fluid standard by the ambient AI. "We appreciate Earth's acceptance of reality. That humility is a mark of maturing civilizations." A polite chuckle murmured through the chamber. Elias didn't react. He waited, just long enough to make a few of the more sentient species uncomfortable. "Indeed," he said at last. "We're all adjusting to the weight of reality." Several dignitaries exchanged glances. The humans had been too quiet since Velcaron 3. No condemnations. No broadcasts. No retaliation on record. It should have been over. It was never over. Counselor Krager, a leathery reptilian with ceremonial daggers strapped across his chest, leaned forward. "If I may be blunt, Elias of Earth, was this appearance necessary? The matter is concluded. The Empire acted within its discretionary rights. If your people are unsatisfied, the appropriate path is mourning, not melodrama. Mourning, Elias repeated. Yes, we've done a great deal of that. He stepped forward. One pace. Not enough to alarm anyone, but enough for the chamber to go still. There's been some confusion, he said. Earth didn't withdraw because it was afraid. We withdrew because we no longer recognize this council's authority on the matter. Murmurs now. A shifting of robes. Data slates flickering to attention. Guruv's voice sharpened. Is that a threat, Ambassador? A threat. Elias raised his brows. No. You'll know when it's a threat. This is just a final courtesy. He tapped a discreet button on his sleeve. Holograms erupted midair, 12 Empire installations, once thought unassailable, now reduced to blackened glass. No weapon trails. No survivors. Just silence. A few counselors gasped. Krager's mouth opened, closed. These are gone, Elias said softly. They were removed. No one screamed. No one fought. They simply ceased to be. This is impossible, Guruv said. You don't have the capability. Earth's fleet is primitive, outdated, underfunded. Yes, we've heard that before. He looked up at the dome above them. The stars blinked back, indifferent. See, here's the thing you've all forgotten, Elias continued. We're not a threat because of our ships, or our numbers, or our technology. We're a threat because we're patient. Now the room was quiet in a different way, a fearful way. We waited, Elias went on. We studied. We cataloged your trade routes, your alliances, your addictions. We embedded ourselves in your cultural patterns and network protocols. We brought your finest engineers to our universities and asked them about their encryption just to flatter them. He smiled gently. We even let you think we needed your charity. Because we were curious. Because we were kind. His voice dropped, silk over steel. But mostly, because we were waiting for someone stupid enough to strike a pregnant widow in front of her son. A few of the translators stuttered. Some species couldn't process guilt when translated to directly. The silence deepened. Krager stood, indignant. If this is some kind of declaration. Oh no, Elias said. That already happened. He snapped his fingers. Every light in the council chamber dimmed by 20%. Across the dome, the stars outside began shifting. Not blinking. Not twinkling. Moving. At first, it looked like a coincidence, orbital patterns, stray satellites. But then, they synchronized. Whole constellations rearranged into a shape no alien could interpret, but every human would recognize. The pattern of a cradle. Guruv recoiled. What is this sorcery? Elias whispered, more to himself than the room. Operation Cradle Fire. She was 8 months pregnant. That matters to us. Dozens of alien races began to panic. Private calls went out to homeworlds. Energy shields flickered online. The Council's AI activated a security override. Nothing responded. I understand your confusion, Elias said, almost kindly. See, you thought our greatest weapon was firepower. He stepped backward now, slowly. But our weapon is memory. In orbit, thousands of stealth drones, human-built, AI-guided, emotionless, shifted from silent observation into lockdown formation. Across the galaxy, Earth's dead man code quietly awakened inside the central systems of Empire planets. It had been there for years, hidden inside coffee machines, inside school software, inside love songs downloaded by alien teenagers who liked the way human music ached. A distant boom echoed in the chamber walls. Distant, but real. Elias didn't flinch. We're not attacking. We're removing options. Chancellor Guruv slithered forward, panicked. You're insane. This violates every treaty. You kicked a pregnant woman, Elias said, voice flat. There is no treaty after that. Then his tone softened again, that unnerving human warmth. We would have forgiven almost anything. But you didn't just insult our military. You didn't insult our politicians or our pride. You hurt a mother in front of her child. He leaned forward. And that in our species is unforgivable. Krager's claws twitched. Then what do you want? Blood? Territory. Elias tilted his head. You still don't get it. We're not here to gain. We're here to correct. He tapped his earpiece. Deploy. In orbit, Earth's stealth fleet shimmered into visible range. 50 ships. Smaller than most cruisers. Outgunned. Under-armored. But they weren't here to fight. Not directly. They were here to record. Every screen across the Empire flickered. A human child's face filled them. Mara Wren's son, eyes wide, cheeks still tear-streaked. The feed looped. Over and over. No propaganda. No anthem. Just the child. And underneath, a phrase. You laughed. Now we respond. Elias turned to leave. You'll hear from us again. Not through broadcasts. Through subtraction. As the doors hissed closed behind him, the council chamber erupted. Some shouting for retaliation, others scrambling for safety. A few just stared at the cradle-shaped star formation now frozen overhead. In the lower atrium, Elias walked past the crowd of aides and envoys. General Doyle waited beside the embassy shuttle, hands behind her back, dressed in civilian garb. Her eyes were hard. Was it clear enough? Elias asked. She nodded. Loud and soft. Just right. And the deployments? Already halfway done, she said. We've got infiltration vectors inside their agriculture, their neural net, and their leisure AI. They'll blame the Empire, Elias murmured. They always do. A brief pause. Then Doyle said quieter. She woke up today. Mara. Elias stopped walking. She asked about the boy. I told her he's safe. He asked if she'd been hurt because he said something wrong. He closed his eyes for a beat. Children always think it's their fault, he said. Even when it's the galaxies. Doyle looked up at the stars. It's a shame they never realized. What? That kindness is our camouflage. The shuttle doors opened. They stepped inside. Back in the council chamber, the lights returned. But the mood had shifted. Garuv whispered to Krager, Do you think Earth planned this from the beginning? The reptilian didn't answer. He was still staring at the stars. And somewhere far from Ularis, deep in the black between systems, an Earth probe ignited a beacon near an Empire supply planet. No message. No declaration. Just a countdown. 12 hours. And counting. The generals of the Galactic Empire had never met in person before. It was unnecessary. Holograms sufficed. Virtual war rooms with simulated adrenaline had become tradition. But now in the deepest vault beneath Cardan Prime, 12 warlords sat around a real table, made from Real stone, with real fear between them. The holoscreens behind them flickered with static maps, once colorful overlays, now dominated by red. It wasn't the typical red of war zones. This was different. Every Empire world marked in crimson wasn't contested. It was silent, censor dead, life sign void. No broadcasts. No distress calls. No survivors. General Zarduin sat at the head of the table, exoskeletal joints twitching. His ceremonial breastplate still bore the clawed emblem of imperial justice, but even he had not bothered polishing it today. There was ash under his mandibles. We are being hunted, he said flatly. No fleet moves that quietly, muttered Admiral Roveth, her serpentine form coiled around a flask of stimulant fluid. No bombardments, no infiltration markers, no warning pings. Just gone. They're disabling worlds, said General Vorsal, voice graveled by years of inhaling firebomb residue. Like they're plucking stars from a child's sky chart. Earth can't do this, Roveth snapped. They're a Tier 4 species with a paper navy and an obsession with soil-grown food. They don't even cyberlink. Zarduin's mandibles clicked. And yet here we are. He tapped the tabletop. The lights dimmed, replaced by a single looping feed, an intercepted broadcast from one of the fallen systems. It played on repeat. A child's voice. Soft, human. Not crying. Just speaking. She was pregnant. You laughed. A flicker. Static. Then the same voice, more distant, like from under a blanket. Now you're quiet. We like quiet. Several of the generals looked away. What do they want? One whispered. They haven't asked for anything, Zarduin said. That's the problem. And, in a way, that was true. No demands had come. No ultimatums. Just absence. Entire moons turned to rust. Mining belts erased from gravity maps. Naval waypoints returned with nothing but frozen wind and the metallic scent of silence. Across the chamber, a new feed crackled online. It was from a diplomatic satellite once thought destroyed. The signal came from the edge of the galaxy, unmapped territory. And, in the center of the screen, a single human, seated at a table. Elias Monroe. Same gray suit. Same silver pin. Same maddening calm. I was wondering, he began, eyes scanning a datapad in front of him, if any of you knew what strategic empathy means. He paused, waited, smiled faintly. It's something we learned long ago. Not to outgun our enemies, but to outthink them. To feel the way they do. To anticipate. To mimic their logic, their rhythms. And then at the right moment, we gently rearrange the furniture inside their minds. The feed zoomed slightly. He set the datapad down. You mocked us for caring about one woman. That's fine. We never needed your respect. But that moment, that kick, it gave us permission. It told every human strategist across every black site lab and retired battlefield that restraint was over. Behind him, the stars burned cold. Now we're not at war, he continued. We're at clarity. You showed us who you are. And we showed you what happens when you forget that kindness is our leash. The feed cut. Silence fell again in the war room. What do we do? Roveth hissed, tail coiled in fear. Negotiate, one general offered. With what? Zarduin asked. They've already taken back what matters. Across the galaxy, the rhythm had changed. Empire ships tried to leave safe harbors and found their docking clamps fused. Diplomatic couriers entered jump space and never reappeared. Civilians whispered of red stars, fleeting glimpses of human stealth craft that didn't shimmer like energy but bled into the dark like ghosts. Alien school children stopped playing Earth music. It made them uneasy now. Too honest. Too human. In one quiet corner of the Empire, a refugee ship fleeing an unexplained silence event docked at an old, rusted Earth outpost. No guards greeted them. Just a single terminal blinking a message. Welcome. We remember what you didn't say. The vessel vanished 12 minutes later. Not destroyed. Just missing. Back on Earth, General Katarina Doyle stood on a balcony above Geneva Base, overlooking a quiet lake. The sun was low, casting gold across the water like spilled oil. She was in uniform, but without insignia, an old tradition, revived for this campaign. She sipped her tea. Behind her, a young analyst approached with a trembling datapad. Ma'am, latest projections confirm 2 more systems fell off the grid. Doyle didn't turn around. How many total? 37. Not counting silent colonies. Good, she said. The analyst hesitated. May I ask something? She nodded. Why are we targeting quietly? Why not show them what we're really capable of? Doyle turned, setting her tea down on the railing. Because this isn't about dominance. It's about redefinition. Her eyes were steel. The galaxy thought of humans as sentimental, fragile, tamed. We're not undoing that. We're adding a layer. What layer? Grief, she said. The kind that doesn't raise its voice. The kind that plans. She stepped past him, heading back inside. Elsewhere, far, far from Earth, inside the lowest archives of the Galactic Library of Volcaran Prime, a lone scholar of the Drill species, six-eyed and pacifist, unlocked a forbidden file. It was labeled simply, Terran Memory Doctrine, Red Scenarios. It had been sealed 3 galactic cycles ago. No one had ever bothered opening it. Humans, after all, were only Tier 4. What could their long-term planning possibly teach? The scholar read the first few lines, then sat very still. Protocol. If Terran civilians are harmed in public by military actors of advanced species. Response timeline. 3 weeks infiltration, 6 months collapse. Primary weapon. Cultural destabilization via empathy inversion. She stared at the next section. Projected outcome. Enemy perception of humanity shifts from benign curiosity to existential threat. Fear of Earth becomes self-perpetuating. And then the final line, written in plain standard. We'll never make them fear our guns, but we'll make them fear our grief. 3 days later, General Zarduin walked alone through the great hall of fallen banners, where the Empire once displayed the flags of every conquered race. They used to glow. Now they hung still lightless, like regrets stitched in cloth. He reached the human banner. It was not torn. It was not burned. It had been carefully folded, left neatly on the floor. A single sentence had been carved into the obsidian behind it. She asked for food. Zarduin turned, mandibles trembling. "Have we become the villains?" he muttered aloud. "No," said a voice behind him. He spun. Elias Monroe stepped from the shadow between pillars. "You were the villains. Now you're the example." Zarduin raised a trembling claw. "We'll surrender." "It's not about that anymore." "Then what?" Elias walked past him, slow, steady. "Now," he said softly, "we finish the funeral you started." And in the black between stars, where light rarely wandered, a fleet of human ships waited. They weren't large. They weren't flashy. But each one bore a name. Mara Wren, Thomas Wren, David, Geneva Mercy, the boy's silence. And at the center of them all a cradle-shaped vessel, unlike any warship ever built. Its surface shimmered not with steel, but with etched names, millions of them, engraved by human hands. It wasn't a weapon. It was a memory. And memory, the galaxy was learning, could kill worlds. The countdown ticked on. 9 hours. 8. And the lull fell across the stars. The kind of silence that always comes. Just before morning becomes legacy. The stars above Cardan Prime had dimmed. Not from clouds or solar interference, but from something more deliberate. Human-made satellites, once considered debris, relics of a forgotten Tier 4 planet, now hovered like sentinels, casting their long shadows over the Empire's jewel world. Each one bore a cradle-shaped signature pulsing in code, sending a silent message across the vacuum. "We have come to collect." General Katarina Doyle stepped onto the bridge of the Mara Wren, her face as still as the polished steel around her. Her uniform was matte black, unadorned by rank or ribbons. The only color was a small threadbare patch on her left sleeve, stitched by a child's hand. A blue scribble. A sun. The ship wasn't large, but it was precise. Every system on board had been reprogrammed to prioritize one directive. "End this cleanly." All ships holding position, her XO reported. "Cradle formation complete. Outer satellites are stable and ghost netting is active." Doyle nodded, staring out the viewport. Below them, Cardan Prime glowed with self-importance, layered with gold-lit towers and sweeping orbital docks, still blinking with peacetime signals. The Empire had refused to evacuate. Too proud. Too slow. They still believed there was time. "They still don't get it," she murmured. "Should we hail them?" the XO asked. Doyle didn't answer. She turned instead to the central console and pressed her palm against the biometric reader. A quiet hum activated beneath her feet. The ship responded. The Mara Wren began to unfold. From its dorsal seam emerged a lattice of sensor filaments and reflective sails, not weapons, not shields, but mirrors. Thousands of them. They caught the surrounding light and redirected it in coordinated pulses across the fleet. A dance. A ritual. Operation Cradle Fire had begun. On the planet below, the Empire's defense matrix detected the shift, but misinterpreted it. No projectile signatures. No plasma. No kinetic barrage. The AI paused, recalculating. Probability of non-attack gesture, 91%. The generals below exhaled, until the comm lines opened, and Earth's voice came through. Not Elias. Not Doyle. A child's voice. "This is David," it said. The same voice that had haunted council transmissions. "I'm 7. My mom said to be brave." On every screen, across every frequency, David's face appeared. Eyes wide, lips slightly parted. "She didn't cry when they kicked her," he said softly. "She told me not to hate." The feed cut, and then the stars fell. But they weren't meteors. They were ships. Small, human-built, cloaked in mirrored light. They didn't fire. They landed. One by one, they touched down on the surface of Cardan Prime, on military bases, bureaucratic towers, and diplomatic fortresses. Doors opened. No soldiers stepped out. Just machines. Quiet ones. Each carried a glass cradle. Empty. The message was unmistakable. The first cradle was placed on the Empire's high altar of victory. The second on the governor's private landing pad. The third in the center of the public square, where Mara Wren had once stood, stomach round, hands outstretched, asking for food. No explosions. No screams. Just memory delivered. It was General Zarduin who broke first. He stepped onto the balcony of the Imperial Citadel, hands trembling. He looked up. The cradles glowed faintly now, lit from within by blue pulses, recordings of laughter, lullabies, baby kicks and wounds. Real sounds, real families, human lives, every one of them, collected from Earth's memorial servers. Hundreds of years of loss, cataloged and turned into silent weapons. He dropped to his knees. And that was when the lights began to die. Not just in the city, in the atmosphere, in the orbit. Earth's ships hadn't come to bomb. They'd come to erase. One by one, Cardan Prime's satellites blinked out. The orbital station collapsed in on itself, its power core overclocked and redirected by a signal embedded 6 years ago during a trade software update. The defense grid failed. AI cores seized up, confused by memories they couldn't purge. Human empathy, once dismissed as a weakness, now scrambled their logic loops. Too much meaning, one core whispered before it died. Not executable. Not executable. The planet went dark. But no one screamed, because the humans had turned grief into silence. Back on the Mara Wren, Doyle stood still. The XO turned to her, voice low. Transmission from Elias. One sentence. She raised a brow. He read it aloud. They've stopped calling us Tier 4. Doyle looked out at the cradle fleet orbiting above Cardan Prime. Then they're learning, she said. She stepped toward the helm and tapped the final sequence. Below, on the planet's equator, a massive Earth sigil activated, mapped via planted mineral lines years ago, when Earth contractors were hired to optimize agricultural flow. The sigil pulsed once, then vanished. Its job was done. Elias Monroe stood aboard the observation deck of the Widowmaker's Promise, sipping tea as the cradle vessels ascended again. He did not smile. Not this time. His voice was soft. They thought we were being dramatic, he said to the aide beside him. She nodded. They didn't know we were taking attendance. A call came through. A new diplomat, young, from the Creve Assembly, appeared on screen. Her eyes were wide, her voice shaking. We wish to open discussions, formal ones, with Earth. Elias took a long sip of tea. Of course, he said. We are always open to peace. Do you require terms? He shook his head. Not this time. Just a reminder. He leaned forward, gaze still calm. If you see a pregnant woman from Earth, offer her a seat. The transmission ended. Across the remnants of the Empire, the remaining warlords went quiet. They issued no commands. They recalled their fleets. They deleted propaganda. Some wept. A few fled. But most just sat with their heads bowed, trying to remember the last time someone asked them for mercy, and how quickly they denied it. General Zarduin remained on the balcony as the Earth ships vanished one by one, leaving no wreckage, no ruin. Only the cradles remained, and the memory of silence. High above, inside the final Earth vessel, Doyle took her seat and watched the stars reset. Behind her, a quiet beeping began. New targets? Her XO asked. No, she said. Not targets. He turned. Then what? She looked down at the blinking terminal. Responses, she said. Galaxies. Opening their doors. His eyes widened. Are they surrendering? No, she said. They're apologizing. The ship turned toward Earth, its shadow passing over Cardan Prime one final time. As it did, David's voice returned on a loop. This time not bitter, not mourning. Just a child again. I miss my mama. But she said we don't always get justice right away. Sometimes we have to wait, and sometimes we have to remind them who we are. The fleet disappeared into fold space. The stars brightened again. And for the first time in the Empire's long and blood-stained history, no one issued an order. Because the war was over, and the story had already been rewritten.